what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hoeology Podcast. It's your girl, Destiny. This is episode 4. This episode is going to be all about how to approach your partner with something new and maybe even a little freaky in the bedroom. Of course, we start off every episode with our tweet of the week. The tweet of the week says, "The moment men stop seeing sex toys for women as competition or as a replacement for their dick, they'll realize the wonder that comes from introducing these in the bedroom." So I wanted to start off by saying I think it's always healthy to be open to exploring new ideas with your partner. Now, I don't think that you should try any kind of new things if it's with someone like you literally just met, because A, you really don't know them that well. You still have to fill them out. You know, it's kind of like you don't want to give someone access to that part of you, that really, really vulnerable sexual side of you, without being in a relationship with that person or having some type of understood commitment. Now, if you are in a relationship with them, I want to give you guys kind of like a how-to or kind of like a couple tips on how to approach a situation if you're interested in trying something new, or if you have something on your mind that you've been wanting to talk about, but you just don't really know how to bring up the situation. So to start off, I'm going to give you guys 10 tips on how to approach your partner. Tip number 1 is find a common ground. So if you're interested in trying something new, but maybe your partner has never approached you with trying something new, you gotta find like something that's not too much for each of you to start off with. You don't want to be like, I want you to hang me from the ceiling by a piece of string and fuck me. Like that's kind of a lot, maybe start off slower, but you got to find something that you know that you both will be into, and you don't want to make it 100% about you. Even though this is your fantasy, you want to make sure your partner is going to enjoy it too. Tip number 2 is prepare yourself with all possible questions and retaliations. You can't bring a person something new that they're not really sure of what it is, they're not sure of how to do it, they don't even know how long you've been wanting to do this, and then just be like, this is what I want. You gotta be prepared for them to say, why do you want to do this? How am I involved? Are you gonna be upset if I don't want to do this? Like, what's gonna happen next? Like, you have to be prepared for all possible questions. Unfortunately, you also have to be prepared for retaliation. They might get angry, or they might be offended, or they might be worried that you're questioning their sexuality. Like, you got to be prepared for that, unfortunately. Tip number 3 is know your partner. You know if your partner is willing to do something with you or not. You know if they're open-minded, if they're more on the conservative side, if they're more vanilla, if they're more freaky than you, shit, you know the truth. So don't go approach them with something like, babe, let me put a dildo in your ass, and your partner is always 100% missionary. That shit is not gonna work. You know them. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't maybe give them the benefit of the doubt, but don't be crazy and don't be offended if they're not into it. Which leads me to tip number 4. Just because you brought this to them doesn't mean that they have to accept it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but either way, you have to be okay with them saying no. It's not a guaranteed thing that just because you talk to them about it, that it's gonna work out in your favor. Now, of course, you want it to work out in your favor, but you got to be prepared for either way, basically. Tip number 5 is educate them on the subject. How can they know if they want to do it if they don't even know what it is? If you say, babe, I want to do some feather play, and they're like, what the fuck is feather play? And you like, I don't know, I seen it on Pornhub. No, you gotta be like, well, feather play is when we do X, Y, and Z, and it's supposed to stimulate this, and then after that is when I'll come, or when I'll feel more sexually aroused, or it enhances this for both of us. Make sure that you include them in explaining what it is, but you have to educate them. You have to educate them on the good parts. You have to educate them on what could go wrong, how to avoid something going wrong. Just make sure you're educated and make sure that you're equally educating them, but not in a way that you're forcing the idea down their throats. Tip number 6, porn is your friend. It never hurts to have a visual example. Now, let's say you are into bondage, right? You tell somebody off rip, I like to be tied up. Their mind is probably going to go to the most extreme picture they've ever seen of bondage. Now, maybe you just like to be tied up with like satin restraints as opposed to like handcuffs, or as opposed to leather restraints. There's literally restraints for days, rope, etc. Depending on what you like, you have to use something to show them, this is what I like. Now, it may not be as animated, I'll say, as porn, but that's where you guys can get creative, and that's where it leaves room for them to ask you questions like, okay, well, where do you like to be tied up? Do you want me to tie you up during, before, after? Do you like to be held up while you're tied up? Like, what is it about being tied up that turns you on? You know, let them ask questions, because then you're more likely to get a yes. Also, it doesn't hurt to ask an actual trusted friend for advice. I wouldn't say ask someone who's not as open-minded as you or who's not as freaky as you. I know if I want to ask somebody like, oh, have you guys ever tried this? Or, oh, I'm interested in doing this. I know which group of friends to ask. I'm not going to ask my girlfriends. I'm going to ask my childhood best friends, because they're just as open as me. I'm not going to ask my friend who thinks doggy style is extremely freaky what I think about butt plugs. No, that's totally different. They're going to be like, oh my God, hell no, I would never do something like that. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. I need, bitch, yes, you should try the one that vibrates, and make sure that you use lube, or make sure that you don't use lube. Like, I want to ask someone who I know has either already done it or has considered it. I don't want to ask someone who I like to say is very vanilla. And it's okay to be vanilla. Please don't feel like you have to go out and do all this crazy shit. But I know that we each have our own fantasies, and that sometimes when you really care about someone and you're hitting it off with them and you really love them, you're going to be with them for the rest of your life, or you guys are already married, it's okay to want to switch it up. The important thing, though, is talking to your partner and giving them the option to be educated, or giving them the option to understand what it is that you're into, so that they can please you, and that in pleasing you, you're also pleasing them. Tip number 7, ask yourself if you're sure you even want to actually do it. Seeing something in porn and reading about something in maybe like an erotic book, or seeing it online, it's a lot different than actually doing it in person. It's going to be scary for you just as much as it's scary for them. And if you're going to your partner because you have decided you are sure that you want to do it, you got to know that it's going to be the first time for both of you. You might get scared and back out, or you might hurt a little bit, or maybe you're going to find out that you actually don't like it. So really have that conversation with yourself of, am I sure I even want to do this, or am I just turned on by the thought of doing it? That's something to really consider, because the thought of something versus physically doing it is real. And if your partner is opened up enough and they have agreed to it, well, now you got the monster that you've asked for, so you better know how to tame that shit. Tip number 8, consider the long-term effects of trying this. So will it lead to something else? So maybe today you guys try anal. Is that going to eventually lead to you want it all the time? Is it going to lead to him wanting to try it more often? Is it going to lead to sex toys involving your anus? Is it going to lead to we're never going to speak about this again? Like, you kind of got to think about, where are we going to go after this? What if it goes wrong? What's going to happen after that? Or what if it's absolutely amazing and you guys decide, fuck vaginal sex, we're going to switch to anal sex 100% of the time? You just got to kind of, when you're having that talk with yourself of making sure you want to do it, make sure you also consider the long-term effects. Tip number 9, be honest and open with your partner. If you can't be vulnerable with your partner about sex, why are you with them? I say this all the fucking time. To my friends, to myself, I can't be with someone who I can't be sexually open with. If I can't say, babe, I think we should try anal. Babe, I think you should let me eat your ass. Like, whatever. Those are examples. If I can't come to you and say those things comfortably, I can't be with you. Because I like to try new things. I like to be like, oh, I've seen this. Let me try this. Like, this sparked my interest or whatever. If I can't come to you, what am I doing? I do think it's important to be honest, though, and open with your partner. You can't say that you want to try something, but then not really tell your partner the real reason why you want to try it. If you're a guy and you want to have a threesome, tell your girl, tell your guy, whoever. Tell them that you want to have a threesome because you're interested in what it's going to be like. Or you're interested in bringing someone else into the bedroom for both of you. Or you guys just want to spice up your sex life. Be honest. It doesn't mean that it's going to scare them away and be like, well, since you want to have a threesome, that means you want to cheat on me. No, maybe you just need to spice it up. Maybe it's on your sex bucket list, which is another episode that's coming out. You just have to really talk to your partner and really understand what it is that you're getting into and what it is you want them to get into with you. Tip number 10, our final tip, is start small and take it slow. You can't just jump straight into something. I think it's actually easier to approach your partner with something smaller and then you could work your way up. So kind of how we talked about considering the long-term effects. If you start small and you can say, well, babe, I'm into this, but this is eventually where I want it to lead. Then they can say, okay, well, let's see how this is first, and then we can elevate from there. You can't just jump straight into being fucked by a toy or double penetration or a fucking orgy. You can't jump straight into those things because you have to start small, especially if in a relationship you don't want to go buck wild and then you're back bored where you were. So your friendly neighborhood hoeologist has 3 safe, sexy, and small options for spicing up the bedroom. If you want to try anal, I would suggest starting small by using like a toy such as a butt plug, a vibrator, maybe a finger. They gotta eat some ass, because if you've ever done anal, you know you can't just jump straight in. You gotta work your way up. You have to maybe get used to lube. Try out different lubes. I would say I like aloe vera based or water based lube. I don't like oil based for anal. Please notate that down. Do not use oil based lubes for anal. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. If you're interested in role playing, I would say try out lingerie. Shout out Dose Intimates, doseintimates.com. I would also say watch porn scenes on how they do, like, for example, the babysitter or the plumber or the pizza guy. Like, just kind of get into that. Another option for role playing small is to act out something in public. Now, I don't mean show up to a restaurant and fuck the shit out of each other in the back kitchen. We'll get to that later. I'm talking about go out, get dressed, have your significant other maybe meet you at a bar or restaurant where you don't know each other. You pretend at least like you don't know each other. He might buy you a drink, flirt with you like he doesn't know you. You may say, oh, I just live right around the corner from here. And he's like, oh, I'll have to walk you up. And then, boom, fuck like rabbits. That's what I mean by trying out, if you're interested in role play, trying out something in public. People do it actually all the time. Like, essentially, they're like, act like they're a stranger, or they just act like they don't know each other, but then they really do, and they fuck. It's kind of hot, actually. I might have to try that out. If you want to be more spontaneous, I say try legal public sex. I don't mean go fuck in a car, because that is illegal and you will have to register as a sex offender. I mean, if you go to a party, maybe sneak off to the back, sneak off to a bathroom. If you're at, I'm not going to say if you black because we know how our families are, but if you're out with your family somewhere, maybe have your significant other come through, swoop you up. Y'all got to go for a walk or something. Maybe rent out a hotel room for the night. That's always different and fun. The best part about hotel sex is you don't got to clean up afterwards. So I think that's good. But basically, that's all I have for you guys for this short mini episode. If you have any specific questions, feel free to DM me. I'm happy to answer, and I'm happy to keep it between us because I respect your boundaries. That's another thing. If you're going to jump into something sexually different than what you guys have been doing, make sure you have clear expectations and boundaries. Have a safe word. My safe word used to be pineapples and pitchfork. Literally, after seeing Kevin Hart's stand-up special, that was my safe word, and then it became pitchfork. So have a safe word, have boundaries, respect your partner, and just get out there and try something new, especially with someone you love or care about. So thank you for tuning in. Follow me on Instagram at its.dstany. Don't fuck it up or I'll kill you. And happy hoeing.